A deficiency of choline results in a 15-point IQ drop, which is resolved when they start eating eggs, as one egg yolk contains 145 milligrams of choline, which is roughly the same amount as a standard dose of alpha-GPC. Choline is crucial to cognition, memory, focus, and even mood. And if you look at the drugs that are prescribed for those neurodegenerative conditions like dementia, Alzheimer's, all of them impact the cholinergic pathway. Additionally, all the commercial nootropic formulations impact the cholinergic pathway because it is so important to cognition as a whole, and including something like alpha-GPC into your day-to-day life can either change your life or ruin it depending on you. And I'm not joking about that because it can have fairly polarizing effects. Alpha-GPC acts as a supply of choline, and it is the precursor to acetylcholine, which is the most abundant excitatory neurotransmitter within your body. It is vital for those fine motor movements, for that verbal articulation, for that verbal fluency, for that thought fluency, for long-term potentiation, for focus, for your salience network, for all of those adjectives. And it has a plethora of studies for improving cognition. In one study, it increased hippocampal neurogenesis. In another study, it was an effective counter-aid to scalapamine, which is a potent acetylcholinesterase inhibitor that they use in Colombia to rob you. It improves cognition in different domains in the elderly, very neuroprotective, has a bunch of studies showing its beneficial effects. There are also studies showing that it can increase growth hormone, but this is a minor effect, not a major effect. It can worsen asthma as well, as high cholinergic function can cause bronchoconstriction, so make it tougher to breathe, which is why you see anticholinergic drugs commonly prescribed for asthma because of that reason. The reason why I have a love-hate relationship with this is because 5 years ago when I got into nootropics and I was experimenting with a bunch of stuff, I kept reading online about how alpha-GPC was so good, so effective. I saw all the studies, I read all the blog posts, I saw all the anecdotes and the reviews. I was like, okay, this is awesome. Let me try it. Let me try a standard dose. And I did. I ordered it. I got it. I kept experimenting with it for a few weeks, and this was during COVID lockdowns. And I just noticed my mood just went to shit, and I had so much anxiety, and I was just like uncomfortable in my state of being within my body. And I did that for a couple weeks, and then I was like, okay, something's off. I don't know. And then eventually, like I kept reading the studies, and I was like, oh, this is effective. This should boost my mood, and it shouldn't worsen my mood. And so I took like double the standard dose, so 600 milligrams, which isn't that high of a dose. And I was terribly depressed for around 4 to 5 hours. And that's commonly in line with alpha-GPC, where for some people, a small subset that are very sensitive to cholinergic substances, it can increase depressive symptoms due to the cholinergic theory of depression, where high acetylcholine suppresses other neurotransmitters, resulting in feelings of depression. And that's what I noticed. And then I was like, okay, I'm never taking this again. This is absolutely not worth it. You know, the minor effect for the major like depressive symptoms, no. A few years later, I took a small dose and I found that it was actually very effective, and then I kept with that. I just dosed it too high for me. So that's my story with it. So I take 150 milligrams. I think that's a good safe dose for most people. You can dose up to 300 to 600 milligrams, but keep in mind, if you're noticing some poor mood or some anxiety from it, probably lower the dose because you might be sensitive to it. I'm kind of a weirdo. I get that effect from eggs, so it's not necessarily the alpha-GPC, it's more the acetylcholine effect. So keep that in mind. Your experience will not be the same as mine, but overall 300 milligrams can work for most people. That is an effective dose. And just keep in the back of your head, if you take it and you notice like worse mood, anxiety, confusion, increased heart rate, maybe some like motor twitches or so, it could be too high for you and you just got to adjust the dose. Alpha-GPC usually works out to 40% choline per 100 milligrams. So for a 300 milligram dose, you're getting around 120 milligrams of usable choline within your body that will get transferred into acetylcholine. So with it, the half-life is only 4 to 6 hours, so people recommend to dose it twice during the day. And you could do a DIY experiment to see how sensitive you are to cholinergic compounds by just taking a dose of 300 milligrams and having like a free evening or afternoon or so, and see how you feel. See if it impacts things negatively or positively, or what it does for you. And then you can kind of use that as a gauge to kind of see. With the TMAO concern, I feel like it's definitely overblown. If you look at the author of the study, he also sells machines to test TMAO. So there might be a little bit of conflict of interest. Hypothetically, you know, the risk would be the same as eating eggs, which I don't think there is a risk of eggs to strokes, to be honest, because that sounds kind of crazy. With eggs, they have choline, just like alpha-GPC, where you can consider them both choline sources that convert into acetylcholine. You know, I don't know. I think it's a bit dubious. If you do want to protect yourself, there are hundreds of things you can do to reduce TMAO. You could take garlic, you could drink coffee, you could take a bunch of other supplements. And within the study, you can't find the specific alpha-GPC dosages that the patients were using that were causing this increased risk of strokes or so. So it's a little bit dubious. Take it with a grain of salt. And if you want to know about the best dopamine upregulator that is very effective, that is safe, that is over the counter, check out my video reviewing Kana and why it can supercharge your dopaminergic system.